I've been thinking a lot about stress recently. I went on a run this morning, which is quite a therapeutic and pleasant thing to do. And on this run, I ran past a car. And in that car was a person on the phone looking quite stressed, quite frantic, clearly in some early morning bother. Um, and I felt very sorry for this person. I thought, this is not a nice way to start your Sunday morning if you're already up at like 7 a.m. having to worry about whatever it was, be it family, be it work, whatever it was. Clearly not a nice thing to start the day with. And I finished my run, got back to the flat, and I was thinking that the stress that we put ourselves through, the stress that is in our lives, be it small or large, like this person was clearly going through, is so unnecessary and so needless. Um, and the root cause of that stress, once again, sadly, is the capitalist system that we're stuck within, that we're sort of chained to, that we're forcing ourselves to put up with through each day. You imagine your life if you could live it how you wanted, and can't imagine it'd be terribly different to what you'd have now. You'd still go about your daily routine, you'd still have your hobbies and your profession, you'd still have a life that roughly resembled that of a typical person, but the stressful factors, the limited time, the balancing of bills, the having to manage your limited resources, having to compete with others in a rather cruel market, all of those things would fade away. You imagine working a profession that was managed in a way that put the people who worked there front and center, their needs, their requirements, their times, let their profession speak for itself without having a corporate structure placed on top of it, letting their professionalism and their expertise be the directing driving factor rather than corporate profit margins and corporate financial goals. Imagine if you could then turn that into a systemic economy, a model for the entire community you live in, so that every job could be one of beneficial weight for the person doing it, for one that allows a person to work in a manner that doesn't tire them out, that doesn't leave them in a car stressed and tired and clearly not having a great time. It's interesting that the weekend, which is ideally meant to be the time away from work, turns into such a stress for a lot of people just because of the way capitalist work operates. You don't have time to actually enjoy the weekend in a lot of cases because you're either recuperating energy from a stressful working week or planning for the rest of the week that's coming up, planning to get ahead of the gruel that comes next. Um, for someone to be in such strife, at any point in their life, let alone so early in the morning, is not a healthy way to live, and really not a healthy place for so many people to be in. Stressing themselves through several jobs, through busy, hectic lives, just to try and survive, and all whilst they're producing for a system that is largely set up for those on top, for those the capitalist class, the owners of land and resource and controllers of money that essentially have set up a system to keep them on top. The capitalist system allows them to maintain their power over the working class, over myself and others, millions, billions of others who work, whose labour is sold to the capitalists to be able to get by, to afford the housing and water and energy they need to live. Um, and all whilst the money and the resources are controlled and making ensuring a luxurious life for those on top. Um, I keep thinking of this person, clearly not having a great time, losing their sleep. Sleep is so important. You need sleep to be able to function as a human being. And under our current model of economy, people miss out on it. People cut into it, having to try and balance either their job, trying to work extra hours, either having to support their family, trying to make sure their family have enough to thrive and get by. Perhaps children are keeping them up. Perhaps there's something else. Perhaps it's just the stress of having to live in a world that cruelty and profit define. Um, and it's ridiculous. Like any scientific study will tell you that sleep is crucial, is paramount to a healthy functioning mind. Sleep, exercise, you need these things. And if you're cutting yourself off from that, then it's worsening your life, quite literally, lessening the time you have on the planet, and giving you a more stressed, more manic, frantic existence on the planet. We got to ask ourselves how much longer we have to put up with this for everyone's sake. Um, And if we don't, then we're only going to harm ourselves, going forward as a species. You think as well, evolution and the way that our species changes um, is adaptive to the time. So if we're making ourselves as a species less able to guarantee good rest and good sleep, less structured with our time because of manic work hours or having to rush around adjusting to every little whim that capitalism throws up at us, if we're having to compete with all those things, then what is left? What's left of our existence? What does that say to future generations who are left picking up the pieces for a fractured and broken species? I think it isn't hyperbolic to say that if we don't change seriously, if we don't make ourselves happier as a species by reducing this stress that's brought on by the conditions of capitalism, of having to thrive in a market, having to try and balance our lives ridiculously based on the terms that capitalist economy has set, then we're going to be in a very dire place. We're going to have a very bleak future. We want to try and make our existence as happy and as fruitful and as fair and beneficial for everyone as possible. And if we don't have that as a goal, we're only going to see more people like the person I ran past this morning. Clearly life can be better for that person, and clearly life can be better for all of us.